Okay. Okay. So now we're going to learn the preamble of the Constitution as if it is a piece of Gemara. Okay? We, the people of the United States. There's a question here. What's the question? How can they call themselves the people of the United States? It's a bunch of representatives sitting in a conventional constitution. They're not the people of the United States.
They are. Well, they represent the people of the
United States. But still, how can this? Why don't they say that we, the representatives of the people of the United States? Do you understand the kasha? You hear the question?
No. But let's say I'm the president, right? Okay, I'm not, but I'm representing America, right? Or United States, whatever. So
there's actually a Rashi and Chumash like that. Rashi and Chumash says about. I'm supporting what you said. Oh, you want to finish? Go ahead.
So yeah, so what do you call it? Representative?
The Nasi.
No,
the king.
I'm a person of the United States.
President. Representative.
A citizen, yeah, of the United States. So I'm still a person, like I'm a citizen from the United States. So I might be the representative of the United States, but I'm still a person from the United States. So I am a person from the United States.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't say we the people. I'd say we, comma, people of the United States. As I was to say, the people seems to indicate that all of the people are present, which is not true.
Weren't all people present?
No, just a bunch of 55 people. Yeah.
But it's saying we the people because it's talking for all the people.
So what gives them the right to talk for all the people?
Wait, what did you say? They are representing.
So there's interesting Gemara.
So the president does. I might not exactly agree.
Well, first of all, yeah. So first of all, about the president, there's a Rashi in Chumash that talks about Moshe Rabbeinu and giving the power over to Yeshua for the next generation. And he says that the Rashi says that Hanasi hu hakol, the leader of the generation, is considered to be as if he is the entire generation. So therefore, yes, there's precedent to say that a president theoretically could speak on behalf of all the people of the United States. But here I think it's different. There's an interesting Gemara in Kiddushin. The Gemara in Kiddushin says that we have a question: how, when they entered Eretz Yisrael, were the elders Canaan authorized to distribute the land to everybody, the Chalukas Aretz? It would seem to be that it's not appropriate that they should do it on their own initiative, dividing up the land, which then would go for eternity to various different families. So the Gemara brings down a pasuk which says that the Canaan of the generation have the authority over all of the generation. In other words, the people who are the heads of the generation have the authority over them, and this is authority by which they represent them, and they also can issue decrees which are binding on them. And there's a concept called hefker based in hefker, which means whatever based in does, meaning the elders, the Sanhedrin, on behalf of the people, is as if the people did it. So therefore, here what we're saying is this congressional convention, since it represented the people, and it was the people who were sent by the various states, so therefore, it's as if the entire people of the United States were agreeing on something. That actually is the underlying basis of every republic. Every republic is based on the assumption that the representative body represents the totality of the people. So it's a chiddush. It's a new idea. But we, the people of the United States, means that we here represent them. Now, there's another thing here, which is if you were starting a constitution of a monarchy, then you would say something like, we, by the grace of God, we, by our royal heritage. By saying we, the people of the United States, what they're saying is that the power of the government of the United States does not come from the divine right that kings have to hold their thrones, does not come from some sort of pre-existing power. The power is being created here. The people of the United States here are creating the authority to have this government. Yes. Okay, you'll remember it. Now, goes on to say, in order to form a more perfect union. So they want to make a more perfect union. The question is, what does it mean more perfect? Normally, the way we understand perfect, it means something which is perfect. But it says a more perfect. We don't usually use the term that way, right? We usually use the term when we say perfect, there's nothing to add on to perfection. And yet it's saying here to make a more perfect union. So how are they using the word perfect here? not like we use it, right? So what does it mean here? It means that we're going to make a union which is better, and by that we have the same notion in Judaism, in our Masorah, which is that a person is here to be mashlim themselves. To be mashlim yourself means to make yourself sholem, to make yourself perfect, but it's an ongoing process, and there are levels of shlemus. A person can achieve perfection on one level and be imperfect as going to the next level. So sholem is a relative term. Sholem relative to where you were yesterday, but not sholem to where you are tomorrow. So therefore, to perfect the union means that it's an ongoing process, which is never ending, because there's no end to shlemus. One can always learn more, one can always have better midos, one can always become a better person. So that's a more perfect union, means the way we work together has to be perfected over time. Our achdus, our unity, is not something which reaches a certain stage and that's it. They can always be enhanced further. And that's what I'm saying. We're already united, but now we have to work on perfecting that union, make it better and better. Establish justice. So the word, look at this, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Why do they use establish for justice? Why is the verb establish used there? And why is ensure used for domestic tranquility?
What's domestic tranquility?
Listen, it means peace peace at home. Shalom bayis. Yes.
Me?
Yeah.
What does it mean, like ensure?
To ensure means to make certain.
And also, what does it mean establish justice?
That's why I ask you. What does it mean to establish justice? Why do they use that verb? Yeah.
And to make sure, that they they're putting make sure that there's justice to everybody.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to follow. Right. I'm going to follow up with that. The word establish. Yeah. Okay. The word establish means the yisoid. The yisoid means the foundation. When I establish something, I'm establishing the basis. And Chazal, same particular of us, not for the fear of the government, people swallow each other alive. The most basic purpose of government is that there should be justice. And therefore, when Navi Micha tells us what the three major values of Judaism are, he says, what does Hashem ask from you? Three things. Asos mishpat, to do justice. Avas chesed, to love kindness. Vatzneah lechzim elokecha, to walk modestly with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the first thing which comes is asos mishpat. You can't have anything good in society unless you establish justice first. Unless there's a sense of fair play, unless there's a sense of this is mine, this is yours, it's going to be enforced, criminals will be prosecuted and punished. There has to be justice first. The establishment, the basis of everything is justice. Is that clear? Yeah. So then after you have justice, you can go on to do other stuff. You can go on to ensure domestic tranquility. Now nowadays we use insurance. What does insurance mean? I'm afraid my house is going to burn down, chas v'shalom, so I buy insurance, right? What does insurance do?
It makes sure that if your house burns down, you'll have money to be able to
right. So it's something which gives me a degree of security. That even if something bad happens, nevertheless, there's protection involved, right? So ensure domestic tranquility can't mean that we're definitely going to have domestic tranquility. Domestic means internal, not towards other countries, but inside ourselves. And tranquility is a fascinating word because tranquility means doesn't mean that things are always going to be, not just that things are going to be peaceful, but they're going to be calm. Tranquil means not just that there's peace, that we're getting along, but it's going to be calm. In other words, what was bothering them? Bothering them under the Articles of Confederation, things were the opposite of tranquil, which is turbulent, like a storm. So they needed to do something which is going to make things tranquil, make things calm. Now, they were getting along, but the relationship was stormy. If you have a house which lacks shalom bayis, chas v'shalom, that means that the people in the house are not getting along with each other. They might be living with each other, but they're not getting along the way they should get along. So therefore, and once we establish justice, we're going to try to ensure domestic tranquility. So the government, the United States is saying, you know what, the federal government, saying, before we had this federal government, who was going to ensure domestic tranquility? There was no mechanism, there was no way that anybody could ensure domestic tranquility because they were lacking the tools to make sure. There's nobody who's going to come in and say, we're going to consciously make an effort to achieve domestic tranquility. So effort to ensure domestic tranquility, they're starting a new form of government. A new form of government where there's going to be a central government which is going to maintain the calm throughout the country. You girls following so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, provide for common defense. So first, you have to have peace inside your borders. And then you can provide for common defense. That's the next purpose of government. What does provide for common defense? It means that we're going to make arrangements. And it's not saying how we're going to do it. This verb is the least definite verb we've had so far. It doesn't say how we're going to provide. They probably had no idea how we're going to provide for common defense. But that's the idea that we're all going to participate in protecting our country from outsiders. Yeah.
Common defense is like the army, right?
It could be, yes, but it could be the army is going to be, the army belongs to the country, to the federal government. It could be that the armies of the different states are going to participate together. They don't know how it's going to be structured yet. So they say, we're going to provide for it. How we're going to do it? We're not sure yet, but we're going to do it.
But, wait, there's more armies than just the one?
Yes. Even today, there's the National Guard. The National Guard, it means each state has its own troops besides its regular army.
What do we have?
We have a National Guard. In every state, there's a National Guard.
Only one?
Yeah, it used to be called, there used to be many militias.
Only one guard? There's only one
No guard, that's the term for the group. It could be, they don't say National Guards, they say National Guard. Because, when in Hebrew you have the same thing, when you have rabbim, sometimes it takes the form of yachid. So there used to be many more militias. Even in the Civil War, the armies were armies of states, not the armies of the total government. And they just worked together. Common defense.
Oh.
Yes.
Why are some of the words capitalized?
Right, so any word that any word they capitalize is one which is very important. And look at the order. It's a good point which you're making. Order here is capitalized because they're stressing that order is necessary to make a perfect union. Union is important. That's the purpose of this document. Justice, tranquility. It's interesting. The common defense the defense is not capitalized, as if to say this is important, but not as important as the things you were talking about beforehand. It's a very good diuk you made. Yes.
What about the people?
What? The people is since the people is the source of the authority. That's why it's critical that it be capitalized. Now, the next slide is the most difficult slide to understand the entire Constitution, because we don't know exactly what it means, and even the people who are constitutional experts don't know what it means. It says provide for the promote the general welfare. Promote means when I promote something, I say, we're making a carnival on Thursday. Come to our carnival, right? That's promoting the carnival, right? When I say I'm producing cars. I'm promoting my car by advertising it. So word promote is a very strange word. Now that promote, it says for the general welfare. What does welfare mean? No, welfare nowadays means that poor people get money from the government. But that's not what it meant originally. What it meant originally is like the word welfare is similar to the word farewell, and that we want people to fare well. They should be well in the way they fare, the way they meet things, may they meet occurrences in this world.
When you say farewell, doesn't that mean bye?
What?
So they're saying have a nice bye?
No. What does fair literally mean? Fair means the way things which happen to you, right? You fare in this world means you go through this world and things happen to you. So when I say to you farewell, it doesn't really have to be a saying goodbye. I could say to you farewell in this test, or farewell in this class. It means we hope that you fare, that when you meet up with whatever happens, you do it well. The same thing is true with welfare, right? I want the way people fare, the way people go through life in the United States, to be done well, to be done in a good way. Do you see that? We just use farewell in that context, not because it actually has something to do with leaving, rather because it's a nice thing to say to somebody when they're going away somewhere. So general welfare, first of all, what does general mean? And secondly, what does welfare mean? So you have to understand a very basic principle, which is that back then, the government, unlike today, did not do anything for poor people. They didn't support people were handled by private charities or by local governments. The federal government did nothing to promote, to provide money, food, or anything like that for poor people.
They just ignored them?
But yes, they just ignored them. This is true until the 1930s, for the most part, till the Great Depression, when things changed. So the idea of general welfare means not specific welfare. In other words, we're not going to have specific details in place because that's not even necessarily our role. That's the role of the individual states. Most of these things were supposed to be left to the states to figure out. So therefore they're saying, promote the general welfare. We're not even going to provide anything. For common defense, we're going to provide. We're going to have to give something. For general welfare, all we're going to do is promote. We're going to say nice things about it. We're going to say, everybody should have farewell. Everybody should have a good life in this world, if possible. But they're not committing to actually going ahead and giving resources, dollars and cents, or actual people in charge of the general welfare. Do you see that? The word promote means that we like the idea, but we're not defining anything of substance that we're going to do for it. Yes?
Why not?
Because again, they didn't think that was the role of the federal government. They thought the federal government is like a cheerleader, to say, rah, 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 may your teams all go do well. But not that it's going to actually play the game. You understand what I'm saying?
Why?
Because they felt that those things which took place in a neighborhood by private people, like a religious group, or by the local government. It wasn't the job of the federal government. When America was much smaller, less complicated, you didn't need the federal government involved in that. Yeah.
If they don't think that that's what they're supposed to do, why is it saying the other things like provide and like ensure?
No, those things they think they're supposed to do. General welfare is in which they think they don't have to do. Okay? The same which they should promote. And secure the blessings of liberty. So this is something which they regard secure. What does secure mean? Keep
like safe?
Keep safe, right. So this is something, in fact, even though they're putting this at the end, that's because they wanted to explain all the ways in which they're going to secure, keep safe the blessing of liberty, because the primary purpose of the United States is liberty. What's liberty mean?
Like having the right to be free.
It's having the right to be free. Any other ideas?
Being free.
I think like it's kind of like the ability to do something, like you.
Really do something, right? Okay, liberty to do something, good. So, yeah.
Having like different rights.
Different rights, okay. So I think you're all right, and I think there's a difference between freedom and liberty. And the difference is that freedom would just mean you're free to do as you please. Liberty means that you have the opportunity to achieve something in this world. And I think I told you earlier that we have a chazal, which says, there's nobody who's truly a ben chorin other than somebody who learns Torah, who's involved in Torah. Ben chorin is not the same thing. Cherus is not the same thing as chofesh. To be chofshi means to be free. To have cherus means to have liberty. What's the difference? Liberty has responsibility. Freedom can mean I can do whatever I want. When I'm free of school, it means I don't have to do anything. When I have liberty, it means I have responsibilities, but I have the capacity to accomplish those responsibilities, and I'm not being hindered from doing so. I'm not being prevented from doing so. So liberty is a higher goal than freedom. We don't always we use them interchangeably, but if you think about it, liberty is something which is higher, and it's a blessing. Freedom is not a blessing. Freedom, if your people are just, it goes back to the beginning. If people just run free, that's not a blessing. You won't have justice. Liberty is a blessing because then there's a purpose and a goal to having that state and having that liberty. So it's to secure the blessings, capital B, of liberty, capital L, to ourselves and to our posterity. It means for generations to come. Posterity means our children and grandchildren, so on and so forth. So the framers of the Constitution wanted a government which is going to work for all time to come. That's because Americans believed that even though they didn't write the Constitution, but the Americans at the time believed that there was some divine aspect. That Kadosh Baruch Hu had given them this country in order to accomplish phenomenal things which had never been accomplished in the history of man. And that therefore they have to ensure that there's going to be some sort of continuity for generation after generation after generation of this great experiment of the liberty of the United States, where every man has the equal opportunity to accomplish in this world, meaning, of course, it's not really equal, but they have given as much opportunity as possible to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So that's what, yeah.
Was America like the first country to have like this, that each like person was this like free?
Yes.
And then everyone just followed it?
Yes. But not everybody followed it. For example, in England, people are not citizens. They are subjects of the Queen. There's a difference. Yeah. They're subjects of the Queen. Now, it happens to be that the Queen has delegated a lot of her power to Parliament and to her ministers, so therefore it's not a monarchy, absolute monarchy. It's more like a republic in that sense. But in fact, there's no such thing as a British citizen. They are subjects of the Queen. In the French Revolution, they started calling everybody citizen, and there it did not work out well. We're going to learn about that a little bit later. So America was the first country in which the notion of citizen actually worked, and everybody is an equal citizen and equal member of the country. Okay, so to our posterity, what do? We do ordain and establish. So ordain goes back to the word order. When you give somebody smicha, when somebody becomes a rav, the term which is used is ordination. It comes from this word ordain. And ordain means to make a formal declaration that the Constitution is not just an informal agreement. If it's informal agreement, it's not binding. If it's ordained, it's almost as if it's a nevuah. It's a statement of this is the way things should be, and this is a formal statement of the way things should be. And I don't know if nevuah is the right term. I'm not sure. I shouldn't use that term. It's something which is binding, and it's binding in establishing this Constitution. So it's interesting. It didn't say establish and ordain this Constitution. Again, first it's saying we have the right, as the people, to ordain, to make a decree, to issue this, and as a result, establish. We can put into place this Constitution. Most other countries in the world either don't have constitutions, or they constantly change them. They change them every few years. America is almost unique in having a constitution which has not been changed. We add on to it.
Why do they change it every year?
Because they don't like their foreign government, so they change to another one. Okay? So the founding fathers were saying, it's a little bit arrogant on their part, if you think about it. They're saying, we are ordaining, we have the power to perceive and declare this officially, and therefore we're establishing this Constitution for the United States of America. What's a Constitution? What's the difference between a Constitution and any other law? It's interesting, in England and in Israel, they don't have written constitutions. But they regard nevertheless, they talk about the Constitution of England, the Constitution of Israel. In Israel, they call it the basic law. In other words, there are certain laws which are just laws. And there are certain laws and principles which are the underlying principles of the country. And the underlying law, the main law upon which everything else should be built. In Yadus, we have the Torah. The Torah is our constitution. And then there are laws, right? The laws are, there could be the Rices, could be the Rabbanans, but the Torah itself, the written Torah, is our constitution. And then it has to be interpreted. The Constitution itself, what people have been doing since the Constitution was put into effect, is interpreting it. Every generation interprets it a different way, this way, that way, shivim panim to the Constitution. There's so many ways to learn the Constitution and more. That's what the Supreme Court is supposed to determine. Which way is operative right now? Which understanding of the Constitution? Because every line of Constitution can have a different meaning. We'll perhaps go into something like that next time. I'll give me an example of how we can have different meanings. That's the most famous one in our day and age is the Second Amendment. Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms. Take a look at it for a minute. It's on page 211. A well-regulated militia, that means a local army, being necessary to the security of a free state, necessary to make sure that we don't get enslaved by the British again, or somebody else like that. The right of the people to keep and bear arms, means to keep weapons, shall not be infringed, will not be they won't be restricted. So now there's a reason, a siba here, and there's a halacha, which comes out from that. The reason is because we want to make sure that everybody remains free. And what comes out from that is the rule that everybody should be allowed to have weapons at home. So bisman hazeh, nowadays, you can't stay free by having a rifle at home. You have tanks, nuclear bombs, in order to stay free. So therefore, this no longer works, this article of the Constitution, as it says it's intended. So now the shaila is, if the intention of the law no longer works, does the law remain in place or doesn't remain in place? It's a big matter of contention. Whether when the reason no longer applies, the law still applies, or the reason no longer applies, you have to change the law. So this is a big issue of how to interpret the Constitution. You understand that? But the Constitution is the basic law. In the Torah we have something like that as well. Ayin tachas ayin. There's an eye for an eye. We know that that's not what we do. The Chazal tell us that means you pay money if you take out somebody's eye. It's not the eye itself. So the Constitution is the thing, the body of basic law, which then has to be interpreted, and all other laws have to conform to the Constitution. As the Supreme Court always decides if a law is constitutional or not constitutional, does it contradict any aspect of the Constitution. Okay, that's enough for today.